Everybody, what's going on? This is Orby3 NWO, bringing you episode 2 of my Modern Warfare 3 gun comparison videos. And this time in my Facebook poll, you guys voted to see the G36C versus the ACR 6.8. So follow me on Facebook if you want to vote on which guns comes next. You can also leave comments down in the comment section. I look at those as well, and I go with kind of a combination of what I get of both of those. But these two guns won it for this week, and let's jump right into it. Alright, let's take a look at the G36's stats first. As you can see, it's a very well-rounded gun. Very high accuracy, high damage, high fire rate. What you do need to look at to differentiate the two is the damage and the fire rate. Those are the two where it swaps from the G36 and the ACR. Both guns have the exact same amount of ammo in the starter clip if the gun's naked. So there's no real big difference there, but the G36 does have a higher fire rate and slightly lower damage than the ACR does. Now this is the G36 in action here. I'll show you its iron sights, which they're not great. They're actually kind of weird looking, but the more you play with them, the easier they are to get used to. They're really not as bad as it looks. You can see that it goes basically straight up and down, has one of the prettiest reloads on the game, but it is kind of a slow reload. If you hold down the iron sights for a long time, you really don't get as much sway as you do with the ACR. So that's kind of nice, but this gun isn't that great for long distance, so it kind of balances itself out there. We'll bring up the best classes next. Alright, now let's take a look at the best class setups for the G36C. There's really a lot of different ways you can go with this gun. It's a very well-rounded gun, so there's a lot of different things you can do. As far as the proficiencies, there's really a bunch you can go with. I like one of the top three. Impact is always good for guns. Kick works well. I usually run two attachments myself, just because I think it's the best. I love to run a silencer, and with the iron sights on this gun, I tend to run a red dot sight as well. I usually like to run extended mags, but any of the sights work well with this gun, and I like to run a silencer on it just so I can stay off the mini-map. Camouflage reticle, that's all up to you, as well as a secondary, really. I like to run the Scorpions more than just about anything else, but launchers work really well in this game because they can always get you that extra point towards your point streak. Lethal, I run the Simtex, but if you tend to be sitting back a little more, then you can run a Bouncing Betty or a Claymore. C4 is kind of underused in this game. The first perk, I like to go with Sleight of Hand a lot because the reload time on the G36 is pretty slow. Another great way to go, though, is Scavenger Pro. Because it has such a high fire rate, you will find yourself running out of ammo quite a bit quicker. So if you can stand the iron sights, a good tip would be to go with extended mags and then Sleight of Hand. And you won't, it kind of balances itself out because you don't actually get more bullets, but it makes you feel like you get more bullets, or at least it does for me. In your second perk, I like to go with Blast Shield Pro just because I tend to run around a little more with this class, and I hate getting flashbanged when I'm trying to come into a room. Just about any of them work well, though. Assassin Pro is hard to argue against. Quick Draw works great if you're going to rush as well. Your third perk, I like one of the bottom two, either Steady Aim or Dead Silence Pro. I tend to run with Steady Aim a little more recently just because it gives me that quicker aim after running, and I hip fire a lot. Stalker tends to throw me off a little bit, but you can use it. Dead Silence Pro works well if you have a headset. If you don't have it, then you can really stay away from it. Marksman is a great perk, but this gun's harder to use in far distances, so I don't usually run with it. Alright, now let's look at the stats for the ACR. You can see it's very, very close to what the G36 was. Basically, the damage and the fire rate have flip-flopped, so it has slightly higher damage, slightly lower fire rate than the G36, but it's still a great all-around gun. I like it maybe even a little better, even though the stats are pretty close. You can see them here. You can see the differences there. It's very slight differences. You can see a little bit more as we get into actually using the gun in this next clip. You'll be able to tell a little bit more of a difference between the two. Alright, now here's the ACR in action. You can see the iron sights are a little more normal, so I think people like them a little more than the G36's iron sights. The grouping on the shots is actually pretty good, but it tends to go up as well, just like the G36. But the G36, as you'll see when I run up here, they go up in a straight line. On this one, it kind of goes up in a circular motion. You can tell that the reload time is quite a bit faster. It's almost half of the time of the G36. So that's something to think about. I really like that about this gun. The iron sights do sway more on this gun than the G36. And now the class setups for the ACR. There's a lot of ways to go on this gun. Like I said, it works a lot like the G36. The main differences are the damage and the fire rate. So I run it a lot like the G36 class. I think the two attachments works best. Stability will work a lot better on this gun than it does the G36 just because it has that more sway in the aim down sight. Again, kick and impact are always great proficiencies, but I tend to run 2 attachments on just about everything. With that, I run the silencer and the extended mags more than anything. I love the iron sights on this gun, so I don't really feel a need to put a red dot or holographic or anything like that on it. I stick with this. Gives me more bullets right off the bat, and it will keep me off the mini-map. Again, on your secondary, I run the Scorpions, whatever you're comfortable with. A lot of people run the FMGs, and the launchers are great. I run Simtex on everything, but this gun works a lot better at longer ranges, or at least it feels like it does to me. So a Bouncing Betty and a Claymore sitting back playing objectively works really well. As far as tactical, I run flash nades, but a trophy system would be a really good idea for this if you're going to sit back. On your first perk, it's always a tough situation to choose between these two. I run Scavenger because the ACR's reload time is so fast, I don't feel like I need sleight of hand, but you can really go either way. When I'm not running extended mags, I put on sleight of hand. When I am running extended mags, I usually keep Scavenger on. It's kind of the trade-off there, but you can play with that yourself and see which way you like a little better. But that's my setup anyways. Recon's always good as well. That's kind of my backup perk. In your second tier, again, there's a lot of choices. I run quick draw on this gun because I always run it with steady aim, and that gives me an insanely quick reload time. But again, Blast Shield Pro, Assassin, Hardline, all of those are tough to argue against. I just like quick draw on this gun myself. On your third one, I tend to run steady aim just because it gives me that quicker aim after running. Dead silence is hard to beat if you have headsets. If you don't have headsets, it's kind of doesn't help you a whole lot. So I usually stick with steady aim. Alright guys, just kind of a quick recap. The G36C has a higher fire rate and lower damage than the ACR. Its iron sights tend to not sway quite as much, but they are a little ugly for most people. I really like that gun. I think it's a great gun. I tip my hat a little more to the ACR though. Just kind of a quick tip. If you have pretty good accuracy, more often than not you'll probably find that you like the high damage, low fire rate guns a little more than the low damage, high fire rate guns. If your accuracy is not very good and you spray a lot, then the opposite is true. So that's something you can play with these two guns, see if maybe you like one more than the others. I think the ACR, even though it has the more sway and aim down sight, works a little better at range as well. It has a little higher damage modifier at range too. That's just something to think about. You can see the last episode and next episode boxes on the screen here. Feel free to check them out if you want to, and I will see you guys next time.